we've eliminated boredom from our children's lives, where we are overscheduling everything because we're so nervous of our kids missing out on anything. When the reality is, boredom is where creativity lives. It's where kids think for themselves and figure shit out. If we're eliminating all of these things, what is our child left to do? They're not thinking for themselves. They're not acting on their own. Their parents are getting them out of every uncomfortable, challenging situation. And we're left with like basically a blob of a human being. That's what we're left with.
Yeah. You know why, by the way? Why do you think parents aren't letting their kids be bored? Or why do you think parents are not letting their kids struggle?
I think what's happened because over time, we've evolved to a place where parents rather be their child's friend than being their parent. They're so scared of being disliked by their child that they're just like not parenting anymore. They're not disciplining anymore. They're so scared of that particular thing. When the reality is our job as a parent isn't to be liked all the time, isn't to make our kids happy all the time. It's actually the opposite. Our job as a parent is to make our kid resilient, make them competent, make them capable. What I've been noticing as, throughout the years is over time, kids are becoming more and more fragile, more and more frail. And it's really, the onus is on the parent. And I think this whole culture of gentle parenting has really made our kids weaker. And so I wanted to have a platform or create some type of platform where we can kind of come together, unite, and create mental resilience in in the younger generation. And so to me also, if you want to be a mentally strong person, why not start when you are a child? Like these are habits and tools that are important throughout your life. So why when you're 21, 25, then you start to learn how to be mentally resilient? Start when you're a kid and get the foundation, prime your brain, prime yourself for failure, for resilience, because life's not easy. Life isn't easy. And if we coddle our children, which is what a lot of people are doing now in this time, it's actually you're doing a disservice.
Okay.
In a real way.
So this is a great topic, but there's a quote you just reminded me of. I think it was Frederick Douglass that said, "It's easier to raise strong children than it is to fix broken men." And I think it was Frederick Douglass. Maybe Doug can look that up, make sure I'm not messing that up. But let's go back for a second, because I understand gentle parenting very well.
Are you a gentle parent?
But a lot of people misunderstand what it means. So I want to know from you what you're referring to because it's like intuitive dieting. Like when I say intuitive dieting, people have this completely
you're talking about helicopter parenting,
skewed view of what it is. So what are the characteristics of what you're talking about, of this coddling type of parent that raises these? Because by the way, and I know you have the data to support this.
Yeah,
I'm familiar with it. It's true. We are raising children that are more fragile and less resilient, but
than ever before.
Yes.
Let me just start by answering your question of what, in my belief, is gentle parenting. Gentle parenting, in my opinion, is snow plowing all difficulty away from your children.
Yeah, that's not. Okay, great. I'm so glad you said that.
And snow plowing challenges. We've created a culture of coddle culture versus challenge culture. And challenge is what makes you stronger and makes you more resilient. So let's start with that. I would also say part of this stuff is helicopter parenting, participation trophies, creating a space where there's safe spaces and triggers. All of this lingo and language, in my opinion, is creating a soft child, which then creates a soft teenager, a soft adult, which, by the way, I will tell you, some of this is causing suicidal rates to increase. Anxiety is through the roof. Depression is through the roof. When you don't feel competent and capable of taking care of yourself and having any form of self-efficacy, what happens to you as a human being is beyond detrimental, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen it. I mean, the reason why we were all raised in a very different time, where independence was very much a thing. We took risk. we were kind of like thrown into independence because our parents weren't watching our every single move. And another big one is boredom. We've eliminated boredom from our children's lives, where we are overscheduling everything because we're so nervous of our kids missing out on anything. When the reality is, boredom is where creativity lives. It's where kids think for themselves and figure shit out. And if we're eliminating all of these things, what is our child left to do? They're not thinking for themselves. They're not acting on their own. Their parents are getting them out of every uncomfortable, challenging situation. And we're left with like basically a blob of a human being. That's what we're left with.
Yeah. You know why, by the way? You know, why do you think parents are doing that? Why do you think parents aren't letting their kids be bored? Or why do you think parents are not letting their kids struggle?
I think what's happened because over time, we've evolved to a place where parents rather be their child's friend than being their parent. They're so scared of being disliked by their child that they're just like not parenting anymore. They're not disciplining anymore. They're so scared of that particular thing. When the reality is our job as a parent isn't to be liked all the time, isn't to make our kids happy all the time. It's actually the opposite. Our job as a parent is to make our kid resilient, make them competent, make them capable. We are taking away everything from our kids. Chores are no longer even in most homes anymore. Like when I was a kid, there was no chance that I was not going to be forced to make my bed, put my dishes away. And when I was 12 years old, I had a job. I was working at the Olive Garden by 12. In today's time, kids aren't even babysitting anymore. Mm-hmm. There's no more babysitting. Like, I mean, do your kid, like, how old are your kids?
Yeah, so, I have 4. I have 2 older ones and 2 younger ones. So 19, 15, and then 4 and 2.
Okay.
But, when you said confidence, independence, that all goes down to security, right? When a kid feels secure, then they can do all those things. And they don't feel secure when they don't feel like they can tackle the challenge.
Well, because
it feels insecure.
Well, also because there's a couple of things, right? There's like that learning space in the middle,
yeah.
Right? You have on one side not knowing how to do something, and then the other side you have having the ability and competence to do something. But in the middle, it's like that learning I can't do.
Yeah.
And so it's very frustrating. Even as an adult, if I can't figure something out, I get super like anxious and frustrated. But I've learned that like it's part of growing is like being comfortable enough in that frustration to try and try again, which is why I talk all about like that 10% target that I usually come on and talk about, which is making 10 attempts. We've eliminated that from our children, which is how people get comfortable with failure. And so we are so uncomfortable as a parent or as an adult watching our kids struggle.
That's it.
Right? We're so uncomfortable from the struggle that we'll just do it for them. And so our kids don't know what to do when they feel frustrated. So they get super anxious and then in that anxiety spirals versus understanding and teaching your child that, you know what, like this is a normal feeling. It's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to feel like I don't know how to do it. But that's part of getting from not knowing to knowing is that process in the middle, right? Like any good athlete, there's a lot of practice, a lot of hours of practice that go in from being like bad at something to being really good. And it's us as a parent explaining and executing on that message, saying, you know what, me doing your homework or doing your science project isn't going to make you better, isn't going to make you feel confident. It's not going to raise your self-esteem. It's not going to do any of those things. All it does is make me, as a parent, compete with the other parent for the gold star of the science project. And what does that do for you? Absolutely nothing.
Do you think that if you're looking back at like generations, especially baby boomers, and it was a very high authoritarian type of parenting in the house, and sometimes there's love involved with that, sometimes there's probably an absence of love with that. And this is something I talk about even with some of my friends who are parents, because their natural reaction to that was to do the opposite. in terms of, not forcing their kids to do anything, and they're trying to kind of approach it with a different perspective. But do you think that might have played a role in terms of like how, culture sort of shifted in terms of the style of parenting?
Okay, I think two things happened. I think people growing up in the 70s, let's say 80s, there's a massive shift after having your birthday in 1993, I believe it was, or 1995. I think a couple things. I think that in 2010 actually was a big one. When smartphones became a big thing,
Yep.
that's the first thing. Because instead of going outside to play and ride your bike and do all sorts of adventures and climbing trees, the kids have now migrated to being inside on an iPad, playing video games alone. So the whole act of socialization just dissipated from 2010 on. And when that dissipated, anxiety, depression, suicide all skyrocketed. That's one thing. The other thing that happened was if I were to be honest with you, I think it's the woke culture. I think the woke culture has crushed mental resilience in kids, period, full stop. Because that's when all of this gentle parenting, the helicopter parenting, the participation trophy, safe spaces, all crept up into society where that became the new norm. And if you're somebody who is on that side of the fence, that's what you do.
You meant, so when you say gentle parenting, I want to interject because there is a massive misunderstanding. And this is what a lot of people do with their quote unquote gentle parenting is they think it means always being nice, never nothing hard, letting you do whatever you want to do. The child kind of leads what's going on. What the real gentle parenting was firm with boundaries and structure and consistency, but not through anger or fear. Because what you end up getting are children that obey not because they think it's the right thing to do, but because they're scared. So this is like the girl who, I'm scared of my dad, I'm not doing anything. But then the second she gets out, she's like, I'm free to do whatever I want.
Right,
type of deal.
right.
But what you're talking about is, like, I'll give you an example. Parents who don't let their kids be bored are parents who never let themselves be bored. It's uncomfortable. You have being with little kids in the house, you know this. You got little kids in the house, they're bored. It's uncomfortable having them be bored because it puts it on me.
Yeah.
Then you ask the parent, when's the last time you went to the bathroom without your phone? When's the last time you stood in line without looking at your phone? When's the last time you did nothing?
Totally.
I mean, I would make, even though I'm not a fan of woke culture, I would actually point almost all of this towards the introduction of phones with kids at such an early age. I think that so much of what you described that we're not doing happens in play. When you go outside and you play with other kids,
100%.
you lose some games. You don't get to play what you want to play sometimes.
Yep.
You get hurt. There's so much of this. And because we took that away from our kids and allowed them to be glued to a phone or an iPad or a television all day long, we robbed them of those experiences. And then you compile woke culture or this attitude of parents who don't know what to do. And instead, I don't want my kid to be any more anxious or depressed. And so I'd rather play on the safer side and go the gentle parenting route. And because I'm afraid to overcorrect the other. I really think the phones cause so much of this because there is so much to learn. I mean, Jordan Peterson talks about those ages between 3 and 5 and how important.
If they don't develop social skills.
And if they don't do it then, they don't get it.
So let me tell you something, a couple of things. Do you know by the age of 8, children would have now spent a year of their lives on a smartphone?
Yeah.
Oh, I believe it.
By the age of 8. That's 1 year completely eliminated from their life by just the amount of time they spent on their phone.
And I bet that stat was pre-COVID because COVID exacerbated that.
Yes. And then the thing about play, beyond what you just said, is the inability to know how to socialize.
Yes.
It has been detrimental. Do you know another crazy stat is 26% of Gen Z are taking their parents to an interview.
I know, we brought this stat up on the show the other day.
I mean,
how can you not be embarrassed by that?
I mean, how are you? But by the way, this is the part that's even more embarrassing, that it's actually been like considered okay. There's nobody is like actually kind of like pushing back on that.
I won't hire you. If you come with your parent, you're not getting hired.
Yeah, laugh you out of the
and
room.
by the way, let me tell you something. Forget about even that. No way you're getting hired. But I don't know about you, because you guys have you guys run a tight ship here. But people don't want to hire people from Gen Z anymore. They're like, if they see that person coming or if it's on their resume, they just won't hire them. Or from people who are woke, because it's just too much liability with it.
You know what's interesting, Jen, about that? So the data is really fascinating with that. There seems to be a schism that's happening with Gen Z where, and this is recent, where a lot of these kids are adopting more of these conservative, hard work,
It's
whatever we want to
split,
label
yeah.
them, values, because I think that they're like, this isn't working for me.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell is happening.
Isn't it split by sex? Isn't that what the
Yeah.
research is showing?
Boys
Is
in
like,
particular, and girls seem to be going the opposite
very
direction.
polar.
Yeah, and there's lots of
So you're
speculation.
saying girls are
Getting more towards the woke, and the boys are going in the opposite
Oh
direction.
yeah, and the boys are going toward. I saw that, and
yeah.
that. Yes, I think I saw that. The other thing I wanted to tell you, what was very interesting, I can't remember when you were saying, and I turned to. Oh yes, the other thing about play what I wanted to mention, which is I think really important, just in terms of like interconnectedness, is nobody's dating anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody's like going out and like dating. No one knows how to act with the opposite sex. So porn is up like 1,000%.
Nobody's talking about that. That is a huge problem.
Huge problem.
It's causing so many issues with kids and
have
adults.
you ever heard of me tell the story of our intern who was working for us when he was 16, 17? How
No.
old was? Okay, so we had an intern. This was like 5-6 years ago. And he was 16, 17 years old. I can't remember how he was young, right? He was just out of high school. And we were asking him questions about what's high school like and hanging out, and do they have parties on weekends and this and that. And we're asking, oh yeah, sometimes they do, not a lot, but occasionally there's a party. And I'm like, okay, well then when you go there and you see a girl you like how does that play out?
Yeah.
Like, and what he told me, and this is like how all his friends would handle this situation. If there was a girl at a high school party that you were interested in, and it's in the same party as you are, you wouldn't walk over to her and say anything to her. You would pull your phone out, add her as a friend on Facebook, and wait to see if she adds you back. If she adds you back, then you then engage with her. DM her on Facebook. And then if she responds to you then you would go over and potentially talk to her.
Or
Are you
Instagram.
kidding me
That's
right
how
now?
you would handle that situation. I thought that was so crazy that you would do that when
Well,
someone's 10 feet away.
You don't find that to be like that. To me,
That's
it's like
crazy.
Socially abnormal.
beyond crazy.
It's also, if you're a young man listening right now, you can be such an easy way.
Yeah,
to
you're
be
a stud if you just go over and say hi.
Just go say
Yeah,
hi,
yeah.
dude.
If you're the guy who has the balls to go over and just say
Yeah.
hi and be willing to fail.
Think about it. The barrier to entry right now to date a person the bar is so low. If you just go up to them, right away, like that's all you need to do.
Yeah.
But that to me is like, doesn't that tell you something about where our society, our culture is going?
Yeah, what this points to for me, because I can use fitness as an example, is when you have obese, unhealthy kids, you
Yep.
almost always have obese, unhealthy parents. So children who are anxious, depressed, they can't be bored, they're always on devices, they never go out, they don't also have parents who are doing the same thing.
Right. And and there's so much research that backs that kids learn 73%. I mean, I have all these crazy stats in my head from doing the TED Talk, right? Because I researched the hell out of this whole thing. But it was like 73% better by watching versus listening. Because after a while, nobody's listening. Like everything kind of just blends after a while. You're not paying attention. So kids mimic what they see.
Oh, yeah.
So for an example, right? All four of us were big workout people, right? So most likely our kids are going to like adopt some of those habits, right? So if you want your kid to be active, you as a parent should be active, right? If you want your kid to really understand nutrition, then you need to you need to be eating a certain way, right? Because kids will follow what you do. Not to mention, I think that the fitness element is crucial, because what fitness does, and was done for me, and I'm sure it's done for you, is it taught me accountability. It taught me discipline. It taught me delayed
Humbling.
gratification. These are core life skills that are transferable in every walk of life. And if your kid is doing that at a young age, then they're taking those with them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a big problem with this, or challenge, I should say, not problem, is that there's so much value in the real world, but it requires more work. And what we've created are cheap substitutes for the real world. So like you talk about pornography, as a teenage boy, I had drivers to go talk to girls. Very overwhelming, powerful driver. Every teenage boy understands this. Now, I couldn't relieve those drivers with pornography every 5 seconds with extreme novelty. I didn't have it. When I was 14 years old, you could trade a bike for a dirty magazine. That's how hard they were to get, right? It was so strictly regulated.
Yeah.
So I had to muster the courage, because these drivers are actually, in particular for young men, they're drivers for creativity. They're drivers to get you out of fear, because it's scary. You're 14 years old. You're going to go talk to a girl that you're interested in, and that is scary. She's going to say no. She probably will. You're going to feel like a piece of crap. You got to go talk to her friends around her. Your friends are watching you. What am I going to do?
Totally.
But to do that, you end up building these incredible life skills through this challenge. And speaking for young men now, because I think for women it's different, but I also think they develop skills out of this as well. For a young man to be attractive to other girls, that's not nothing. You got to learn how to kind of grow up. You got to clean up a little bit. You got to present yourself not like a creep.
It's feedback.
You got to kind of be funny. So you got to learn a little bit of skill. You got to learn how to communicate properly. You got to show some courage. These are all things that girls value. So I got to develop all that. Well, if I was a 14-year-old boy with a cell phone, with a smartphone in my room with more sexual novelty than kings 1,000 years ago didn't even have, like, that drive is gone. I have no drive, because I'm just in my room stuck, and there's no girl that could even match that artificial processed, whatever.
Can I say one more thing? Can I just interject? Also, because of that phone, you're not learning that failure piece, right? So you're so fearful of rejection. You don't have to worry about rejection.
No, right.
Right? There's no such thing as rejection if you're just stuck on a phone watching porn, right?
Right.
So you'd rather do that. And now on AI, with AI, you could have like a fake girlfriend who just talks really nice. You could pick the voice you want. You could pick you could pick the voice, you could pick the answers, you could pick how she speaks to you, what she says to you, what dirty talk you like. Like, it's making it like it's literally eliminating any ability for any type of rejection and human contact.